Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you'll have enjoyed the conference so far. My name is Pooja, and I am a cloud integrations lead at Ascendion. I have, throughout my career, done development and coding and built products for core IT companies. But of late, I have been doing more consulting, integration consulting for companies whose business is not core IT. They're in the business of servicing customers, so IT is not their main priority. And these are top tier customers in the airline industry, in healthcare, in banking, and retail. I am also part of MuleSoft community. I'm a MuleSoft community mentor. And I mentor new integration professionals as part of that community. I write blogs, and I've recently started a podcast. I host it along with a friend of mine. It's called Bits That Bind. And today we are going to be talking about guide to effective data integration, and these are the lessons that I have learned throughout my consulting career, and also the research that I have done. So I've just collated it. So it's more for businesses that whose core business is not IT. They do something else. So IT usually is a afterthought for them, and that's not how it should be. But unfortunately, that's how it is, right? Yeah, let's get started. Previously, businesses and IT leaders, they used to use historical data and hunches just to predict what's going to happen in the future. But now they actually use data and data-driven analytics for predictions and how to improve their business, etc. So this pivot that happened from using hunches, etc., for business forecasting versus now using actual data and data-driven analytics to perform, business forecasting. This has what made data strategy so important for businesses. Now we are going to, as part of today's presentation, we're going to look at why we care about data, right? We know data is important, but why is it that businesses should care about data? And then we're going to talk about strategies and how to integrate this data, make this data available securely so everybody can consume it. And then we want to make that data work for us, right? We have built all these systems to access this data and collect and access and secure this data. But then we want to make sure that that data works for us. It can provide actionable insights and do things in an automated fashion. So it solves our business problems and helps us really to bring about automation and create a true data-driven business. All of us, we have cell phones these days. We are constantly storing data either on our devices or in the clouds. We interact with businesses. We interact with people around us via these digital channels, and we are constantly exchanging data. We are creating data. We are storing data. And so there is a lot of data, and IDC predicts that this data is going to grow. By 2025. We are going to see around 175 zettabytes of data in movement. Don't focus on the number, that could be more or less, but what is important here is that something that is already on a very massive scale is going to grow even more. And currently we are not equipped, to handle all of that in a safe, secure manner and make it accessible to our businesses, our customers, etc. So that's just, our problems are just going to compound with, a lot of data. So why do we care about data? So data is key to understanding customers and to achieving business priorities. So a lot of these companies, they commission Forrester and McKinsey to do research, and they realize that customers who create data-driven businesses, they grow a lot more compared to their peers. They can retain customers better when compared to their peers. They can retain employees because they are capable of creating better employee experiences. Also, insight-driven companies, when you compare them to their competitors, they can create differentiated experiences in the customer space, in the employee space, etc. So data is at the core of business transformation. In this digital world today, we are, our employees are all over the place, we are all over the place, and we are just constantly remotely accessing data. We work remotely, etc. I remember when I was little, and I'm from India originally, and when we used to go for vacation, we used to go to the hotel and in person try to book, a place to stay. And if that hotel was full, then we had to go sit in a cab and go to some other place and try that. Sometimes if it is summer and, in summer everybody is traveling, and if it's a really popular place, then you just maybe had to go to 5 or 10 different hotels to actually find a place to stay. But today, to come here, all of us just booked it online maybe a month ago or a few months ago, and then we just had a place to stay. So it sort of gave us that security, right? We know when we can travel, we have access to all that information, so we can look and choose, which is that cheaper way or a better way for me to travel. Maybe you don't want long layovers and you can choose that. Maybe you want to stay close to the airport, or maybe you want to stay close to the beach, and you have that power to make that choice. So, and how do you get that power? How can businesses empower you and inspire you to make those choices that are ready for you? It is by utilizing this data and making this data available in a fashion that makes sense to you. So we all collect data, and that could be raw data, it could be unstructured data, it could be structured data, it doesn't matter. But businesses need to have the capability to bring the structured and unstructured data to draw insights, and that is key. Our data today lives in silos, and it lives in different systems. On an average, large enterprises have around 900 different applications, and that's a lot, right? 900 different applications. And only 1/3 of those applications are interconnected, which means there is data in all of those other systems which businesses just cannot access. And so when we are bringing this data together, what does that data need to be? What are the requirements? You want that data to be accurate, right? You have a source of truth and you have different systems, but you need to bring together that data accurately and make sure it is accurate. And then you want to make sure it is complete. Because there are multiple touch points. If you are a business that is serving customers, then you have access to your customer data that the customers have directly entered into your system. Then that is your first layer of information, right? You need to have access to that. And then the data that any of your partners have collected from that same customer, that's your second layer of information, and you need to have access to that. And then you have your third layer of information, which is from other third-party systems. If you can, you need to have access to that so you can create this complete 360-degree holistic view of your customers' data so you can service them better. Also, it needs to be timely. Like, for example, when you're traveling and your gate changes, you don't want to know that, after the flight has departed, right? You would like to know it as soon as possible so you can know and go to the right gate. Or if your flight got canceled, if there was some sort of disruption, you want your airline to be capable of handling that disruption, which means they need to inform you timely, make alternate arrangements to you, and constantly communicate with you. And these are the requirements that we need in the current day. Also, that data needs to be consistent. So you need to have central governance and bring in security so you can continue to innovate. Also, today you have a lot of systems. The customers are constantly interacting with you via various channels. And this is just, you need to be flexible at that point to be able to consume that information, make that information available simultaneously. And then that data needs to be actionable. And this is a competitive differentiator. For example, say you are in the shipping business and you are servicing some customers and sending some data via first class shipping services. And what if consistently that is not being delivered? You would like to know immediately and rectify that, right? Because those are probably your high-paying customers, and they are paying a premium for that service, right? First-class shipment. So you want to know that immediately so you can act on that data. And you need to make it available at a level where your citizen developers can act on it, because a lot of times, all of these business dashboards, etc., are accessed by your business users or your non-IT folk who do not know a lot of development. So then you want to make sure, you want to enable them and empower them to be part of this data culture where they can take these quick actions without having to think a lot. So your data needs to be actionable. So what do organizations need? All companies collect data, and through research, we all know that this data is important. It is going to help us retain customers. It's going to help us give better employee experience. It is going to help us be better than our competitors. And in spite of all of this, only 7% of organizations worldwide have been successful in creating a business-driven, data-driven business. And that is interesting, right? Because it is our own data. Technically, you should think that we should have access to it. And we know all of this. So, and we have been creating applications for a very long time. But that's a very poor number. Worldwide, only 7% of organizations have been successful in creating a data-driven business, a business that in today's world is very, very critical for you to be successful. So what do organizations need? Organizations need an integrated approach that is going to help them unlock this data set once and empower all teams to use it in their own experiences. So when you keep creating assets repeatably to solve the same problems, then you are creating liabilities, not assets really, because you spend a lot of time, money in creating all of this. So what you want to do is it needs to be one and done, right? Like you create it once, you create a composable unit or a packaged business capability once, and then make that data available to your organization. So then all your other partners, maybe it's a different team, or maybe it's your front-end team who wants to access it, then this data is always available. It's sort of you're creating a data backbone where data can move freely in and out, and anybody internal to your organization can just access it in a secure manner and then present it however they see fit. So that's the goal anyways. And for this, the capabilities needed are, you need to have connectivity between various systems. We already talked about this. On an average, enterprises have 900 different applications, and only 1/3 of them are connected. So you need to connect all of those different applications, the ones that are not connected, so your data can move freely. And real-time delivery is very, very important, at least for those aspects, where the business relies on real-time delivery. Say, for example, your flight, you want to know when the gate changes, or if your flight is canceled, you want to know it immediately and not, after the flight has departed. And this should happen even for very large payloads. I have worked for some companies where when you develop a certain product for a certain project, then you cannot use it directly for something else, because when it was developed, the scale wasn't taken into consideration, and they couldn't scale it, and then they had to shelve it or recreate something again. So every time you create a product, make sure for that organization it makes sense, because it needs to be scalable. And large payloads are a bane for all developers, because your application at one point just stops working because it can't handle large payloads. Also, balanced governance. You need to bring in security. The security needs to be baked into this process. Sensible change management, and I say sensible change management because not one kind of change management may not work for everybody. You need to align your governance process, your change management process to the culture of that organization. So, it's effective and it's actually going to be used. If you create something that your business users or other users are not going to use, then there is no point in having that sort of change management, because all the research you have done and all the thought that you have put into it, they're just going to find a way to circumvent that. So you need to bring in all that into that process where it makes sense. It needs to be like, very, very seamless. They shouldn't have to log into 10 different systems to, enable change management. They should not have to bring in like this whole different process to do it. It should sort of make sense for that organization. And that's, even operational alignment is just that. So using data to accelerate your business strategy, right? We need to unlock our data, and when we unlock our data, it's good to use capabilities that can be reused consistently. And if you are not in the business of IT, then it is very, very difficult to get business buy-in or make them spend money, a lot of money on creating this custom code and maintaining this custom code. So then maybe you want to look at a low-code, no-code platform, but in that case, you need to make sure that they have all of these pre-built capabilities or assets that you can just reuse and quickly start development. You have to bring in data culture, and not just for your developers or your IT team. Everybody in your company needs to embrace this data culture, so you can be a truly insights-driven business. And trust. You need to make sure that data is secure, accurate, and consistent across the board. And of course, you need to take, you need the capability to take action, and without switching apps. If you ask these citizen developers or business users who look at these dashboards and have to take next action based on that, you don't want to have them to from this dashboard go somewhere else and do it. Now we have tools, for example, Tableau. If you look at the dashboard, you can code the next action right into it. So if something happens, the user can just click on that graph or that bar, and it just takes care of the next action. So if in this case, we were talking about a shipping business, which if it sees delays in shipping first-class shipments, then all that business user has to do is click on it, and it's just going to send an email to your your shipping company to connect with you and discuss strategies or whatever it is. But you should have the capability to do that. So these are the 4 steps to bringing API-led integration to your data. These are the 4 core steps. Outside of this, there is a lot more. There is stuff related to documentation, change management, etc. But these are the core. So you need to build, secure, manage, and monitor your products. So APIs are building blocks that help you unlock data, And when you create these APIs, you want to create them in a sensible fashion so that they can be reused. For example, say you are a shipping store and some of your customer data is in your marketing cloud and some is in your sales cloud, and then you have order information coming in from your store. To properly service this customer, you need to have access to all of this. So maybe create individual system APIs for each of these systems so this data can be unlocked and made available to your organization. And then you can write your processes which will access this data and create data orchestration and transformations and expose it so your experiences can leverage it. Maybe it's a mobile device or maybe it is a web-based app, whatever it is. Why APIs? Because they can be productized and designed for ease of consumption. They can be easily managed and they can be discoverable and accessible through self-service. And this is very important. When you build something, you want to make sure you can discover the assets that you have built. If you are a very large company and you have a lot of assets, then it becomes very difficult. When you start a new project, you want to be able to search through the assets that you have created. A lot of tools have a exchange page where you can go in and look at all the assets that you have created, read the documentation, open the API spec and see what it's doing, the examples, etc., and leverage the mocking services that it provides so you can test and see if this is something that can be used for your product. This is not for everybody, so especially for businesses that are not in the IT business, right? That are doing something else, say for example an airline. Their core business is to take care of travel for passengers, so then IT takes a backseat for them. Or maybe it's healthcare where they're concerned with providing patient care, and so then IT takes a backseat. So then you need to be smart about it, because obviously, at that point, you need to secure buy-in from the business to invest significantly in IT. And if you don't know what you're doing, it could lead to increased cost, and then obviously it slows down innovation and increases security risk. So you need to do custom coding only when and where it applies. I have this slide here, characteristics of a composable enterprise, because today everybody has a automation roadmap for their IT. Everybody wants to automate all of their products, and that's where we are headed, right? So now when you're building products, we have to make sure you are building a composable enterprise. And what do I mean by composable enterprise? A composable enterprise has individual, packaged business units which can be assembled and disassembled as you see fit to create products or create experiences for your customers, your employees, etc. So these business processes are assembled by APIs, and then you want to make sure that the data that they have or the data they have access to is open, so other partners and consumers can access via APIs. And business users can create front-end applications on demand, and they don't have to wait for you. So all of these activities can happen in parallel. For example, if you create an API specification and constantly provide it for your users and your testers for feedback, then at that point, once that API specification is ready, then they don't have to wait for you to finish development to start whatever it is that they're doing, the other integration processes they're writing or testing they're doing. That can happen simultaneously. They can mock those services and start that simultaneously while you continue your development, and that it enables you to have or it provides you the flexibility to have parallel development going on. It also provides you the capability to create technology solutions from top down and not just, from bottom up and not just top down, because that's how we have seen, right? We look at something and we say, okay, this is how we want it to look. And then we start, what's the next step and what's the next step. But here you're sort of reversing that whole process. You're creating these system APIs, which is essentially a system layer, and that is always going to be available. So irrespective of how your front end changes, you will always have access to your back-end data. And that is vice versa also. Say, for example, you are an airline and you want to switch your GDS from, say, Sabre to Amadeus, or from Amadeus to Sabre. So then all you have to do is change those system APIs that are communicating with Sabre or Amadeus, and you don't have to change any of your process layers or your experience layers. So your migration project is a lot quicker. API reuse. It's very important to design and develop APIs, keeping in mind that they have the capability to be reused. And here I've just given an example. Say you are doing a retail and shopping insights project, and so you have created this API, the order history, process, and product API. So when you have your next project come in and it's about customer engagement center, then all you have to worry about is developing your customer data API, and you can just reuse the rest of the APIs. And next maybe you want to turn your business and make it B2B to B2C, and so then you just add your payment API on top of it, and then you want to make e-commerce available, then you can just stack your APIs and reuse the APIs that you already have. So we spoke about this. This is how it's going to look like when you unlock your data. Each of these systems will have their own APIs. So then your processes can mix and match the data that is coming in from these various APIs. So then what happens is, say tomorrow you replace this, right, the SQL with something else, then you don't have to change anything above here. You just change this API that is unlocking this data, ensuring that you are maintaining the internal communication standards of your company. Say all your internal data is in JSON format, then you just transform it into that format and make it available to your data bus. Then everything above it remains the same. Normally, if you do custom coding or you look for a platform to do this, you want to ask these questions, right? What does a typical build process look like if you use this platform or you're trying to do this product? And how long is it going to take? And is reuse possible? And do you have pre-built assets? For example, right now in the healthcare industry, everybody is trying to be FHIR compliant, and that's just a lot of APIs that you have to write. And if you were going to use an integration platform, maybe look and see which platform already has, like some of the platforms have around 145 REST APIs already created, and all you have to do is use and bring them in, change the configuration information, and your at least the REST interfacing is complete. So you need to make sure that you are using something that has pre-built assets, pre-built connectors, and that platform has the capability to search for these assets that are already created. Security. Data security is very important, and you want to, bring in layered security. And what do I mean by layered security? You want to make sure that, you are maintaining compliance, and you are supporting SSO and role-based access. And then your devices, you can apply edge policies on that to protect it from, to protect the perimeter. And then you want to be able to apply API policies, do whitelisting and tokenization of your PII data. And all of this needs to be possible. So, and security is very, very important, because maybe you are handling, sensitive customer data, or you are in an industry where data is very heavily regulated. Then this is something that you have to really pay attention to. And when you are applying security, you obviously you want the tool itself to have out-of-the-box security, and then you want to ask all of these questions, but also you have to make sure that your performance or your availability is not impacted by the security that is available, or when you add security to it. You want the capabilities to monitor. You've created all of these assets, they are secure. But then if you cannot do root cause analysis, if you cannot set alerts, then what is the point? Your APIs go down and you're not notified. You want the capabilities to monitor your APIs, and it needs to be a single pane view, sort of like a visualizer, where you can go in and do all the functions right there, as opposed to logging into different products to do a lot of things. And a lot of these days, companies are trying to monetize their APIs and bring in API economy. So at that point, this becomes really, really important. So these are some of the questions you need to ask. Well, if it's your team that is doing some in-house development, or you're bringing in a platform, what are the visualization capabilities you have, and can you perform root cause analysis, and how do you check the health of your assets. Also, you want to be able to manage your APIs, track API usage. I had a customer once who came in and asked, what is out there? Like, what can you do to check if, some of your assets, are they being used or not? And that is the problem a lot of companies face today. They have a lot of APIs, and they don't know if they are really using all of these APIs, and if they're just, in your organization not doing anything, and you're still supporting it. Why? Right? So you need to know how to track your API usage. So then if an API is not being used, or economically it doesn't make sense for how much it's being used versus, how much you're spending to maintain that system, you want to decommission it, right? So for that, you need that information. And you shouldn't have to jump through hoops to get that information. It should be easily available. So these are some of the management questions you need to ask if you are going to look for a platform tool for your development. Can you manage, secure, and govern APIs in a single place? And then how can you apply policies? But a lot of times in large organizations, the developers will not be doing this, right? There are a dedicated support staff who's going to be going in and managing these policies and monitoring these APIs. You want to make sure that it's easy for them, and you can provide training, and it's available in one place where they can go in and do all of this, whether it's applying policies or altering policies without downtime, because most of our applications, they need to be available 24 hours. Next is actioning data. What's the point of having all of this data available, interconnected, ready to be accessed if you cannot action that data, if you cannot make that data work for you? So these are some of the challenges that are faced by the team, right? Data is spread across many backend systems. System and backend systems are not connected, and sensitive data needs to be transmitted. Think about it from an employee experience point of view. You have HRs doing repetitive actions every day. For example, if a workforce comes in and maybe they are a temporary worker, to load and unload your bags at the airport, they have to log them into 2 or 3 different systems, one for payroll purposes and one for time management, etc. Wouldn't it be great if all they had to do was enter it in one place and it was available automatically everywhere else? So you have that automated data interconnection happening and data moving across on a real-time basis. Or maybe someone was let go or someone left the company and you want to deactivate their access. Wouldn't it be great if all you had to do was do it in one place and it just happen across the board? Doing repetitive actions is actually causes a lot of employee disengagement, and currently that is the largest problem we have in the world. Around 70% of our workforce is disengaged. They're not happy with what they're doing because they're doing all of this repetitive processes, and it is costing the world $7 trillion dollars in losses due to disengaged employees. And it would be great to improve employee engagement by bringing in this automation, by bringing in a data-driven strategy into your business. Today, even for customer experience and customer 360, that's the same thing, right? Today, customers dictate how they interact with your brands. Previously, the businesses and the product companies used to do that, but today it's you decide how you want to interact with it. Maybe you log into your phone and you book your ticket, but you go on your laptop and then check in, or you go to the airport and access the kiosk to check your bag in. You want consistent service across all of these channels. You want faster services, and then you want curated options, right? For example, say you're traveling with your child, it would be great for you to know if you have in-service meals provided, and is there something the child can eat, etc. And managing ever-growing data is a challenge here. But by creating a data-driven business, you have that capability to create these unique, differentiated experiences for your customers, so you can make sure that they are loyal to your brands. Q&A. Do you have any questions? Yes.
You talk about exposing the data through APIs, but you work too much legacy systems. Okay, thank you. When you work with this legacy system that is common in this region, because we work for a very traditional company that built maybe with a business unit, and later they are adding other industry business units. So we have a lot of legacy systems. How do you recommend to approach that? Trying to expose this data, because you don't know what are the data assets in the first place, and you have all of these new things,
right.
New developers,
right.
new engineers that they are asking for work with these new technologies. But when you are throwing all these talents to this legacy system and say you need to, I don't know, maybe try to in a crusade to find all of this data.
Yeah.
So how to explore that?
So I've worked with a lot of companies who have just done that. They have legacy monolithic systems and they don't really want to redo that, and they still want to have their, the point-to-point systems, but then they want to improve their processes. What we do initially, what I do is spend some time doing discovery. Maybe for small companies, it may be like 2 or 3 weeks, or for larger companies, it may be 6 weeks. But create a questionnaire and try and do discovery to find out what these systems that they have. And a lot of times they don't want to change it right now, but they're going to change it eventually. So what we do is everything above that, that is relevant for this new project, we do that using these principles. So all the layers, the process layers and the experience layers above it are compliant to, you know, whatever I spoke about just now. And just that system layer is just that monolithic system. But tomorrow when, you know, and you will have to change it, at that point it's just going to be easy because you just have to worry about that system. Unfortunately, I don't have like a better answer. It's sort of a struggle, right, to get to do that. And a lot of times they are XML systems without a lot of documentation, which are just closed and nobody can access it. We do our best to bring those in. Maybe we create a pass-through layer where we are just bringing that data in and transforming it to a format that makes sense for the organization. Yeah. And then do not underestimate the use of message bus. A lot of places you can expose that data and make it available on a message bus, which is, you know, continuously eventing that data out so your consumers can then consume it whenever they want and do whatever with it. So at that point, you know, maybe you can reduce creating APIs and you're just creating one message bus where eventing is happening. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, thank you for your time.